Wednesday, November 9th, 2022 work session of the Richmond Community School Board of Trustees. If everyone would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can have the reading of the mission and vision, please.
Richmond Community Schools guide students on pathways of learning to a future of limitless possibilities.
Vision statement of Richmond Community Schools is a collaborative community nurturing mind, body, and spirit to prepare students for lives of choice, purpose, and service.
Thank you both. Moving on to item 2, celebrations. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our coordinator of communications, join us at the podium to introduce tonight's celebrations award winners and acknowledgements.
Good evening. Hibbert Children Building 8th grader Cooper Smith has been accepted into the 2023 Indiana Junior All-State Honor Orchestra. He has been selected out of hundreds who auditioned as one of the top 4 middle school string-based students in Indiana. He has earned the privilege of performing at the 2023 Indiana Music Educators Association in Fort Wayne this January. This is a high honor, and we are proud to have Cooper Smith represent Richmond Community Schools. Please join me in welcoming Cooper Smith. Does anyone have any questions for Cooper?
How long have you been playing?
I've been playing for going on three years now.
And why did you choose that particular instrument?
I don't know.
So you play bass and cello, correct?
Yes, I would switch over to cello when our orchestra needed it. So, but mostly on string bass, yes.
Do you play any other instruments?
I've been working on playing guitar, but that's about it.
Fantastic.
Do you have anyone in your family who's musical that maybe inspired you, or?
My mom, she played piano through, I think high school, right? Oh.
So I've got a question. Do you get nervous when you perform?
Not really. It just depends.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not typically though.
Not typically, no.
Okay, great.
Well, currently, what is your favorite song?
I don't have one. I like all the songs.
You like them all? All right.
Who do you have here with you today? If you could introduce those folks.
I have my sister, my teacher, my mom, my grandma, and my little brother. I forgot the names. This is Mr. West, Michael West, my teacher, Mackenzie Smith, my sister. I don't know her name. Yes, that's mom. Angela Criswell, I think. I'm not terribly sure on that one. But Kathy Richards and Bentley Criswell.
Fantastic. Thank you all for coming.
Congratulations.
When's the concert?
I think the 15th to the 14th. So it's an overnight January. January 2023.
And did we say already where it's going to be held? Fort Wayne, okay. Young man, again, congratulations, as I just alluded to in a private conversation, having spent time in school with your mother and also your aunt, and understanding and knowing how cool they were and influential they were with the arts, seeing that it definitely has passed on and rubbed on to yourself is quite amazing. I'm curious if you don't mind sharing the influence that Mr. West, the orchestra director, has had on your playing and how he's helped increase your excitement for performing arts.
He's very engaging. He engages everyone in the class to just do better.
Mr. West, why don't you come up here so you
Hear
him talk about you.
It just engages our whole class to play better and play more with his crazy hand motions.
That's called conducting.
Do that again.
How's
that go again?
I didn't know anything about the bass before I joined
Oh, so
taught me everything.
wow, so you hadn't even played, and because of Mr. West's influence. And so, Mr. West, again, being that we were honored and privileged to hear your high school orchestra play at the grand reopening there at McGuire Hall earlier this week, why is it that you do what you do, and of the influence that you've had on a young man, share just some of the things that bring you joy?
When I was in high school, I was in Boy Scouts, and I absolutely loved the idea of working with these future leaders. And I just thought that was a lot of fun. I got to teach teachers how to be, leaders kind of thing. But in high school, I was also extremely active in my high school band program, Anderson High School alma mater, sorry. And I just was like, why can't I just put the two together? I teach, and I love music, so let me teach music. And then through the years I've taught high school band and middle school band and now middle school orchestra, and that's where I found just this natural way that I flow with the students. And then I get the privilege of working with students like Cooper that just make it absolutely enjoyable in every aspect of the day. Even though they're middle schoolers, even though they're going through hundreds of hormones every hour, it's just so much fun. And for students like you, you make it such a joy. So thank you.
Mr. West, what year did you graduate from Anderson, if you don't
I
mind?
graduated in '02.
02. Okay, so your first year in band at Anderson would have been, pardon me?
First year in band was '98.
Okay, all right,
Yep, Boss Cop Parade year.
okay.
And so Cooper, is there a favorite musician that you have, or someone that inspires you, or that you look up to, or like a role model, idol?
Not personally, but I just look up to a lot of like famous composers, I guess.
Okay.
Because
And
their pieces are just so beautiful and it inspires me to play.
wow. And I believe you have another guest that just arrived. If you can just acknowledge your other guest.
Sorry, Dad. So
That's what it's all about.
I got here.
Welcome, sir. We appreciate you. And indeed, Cooper, we appreciate what it is that you and Mr. West, the inspiration you continue to provide. Thank you all. Congratulations. Congratulations, Mom and Grandma and siblings. It's a family affair. That's what it's all about. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Naturally.
We're thankful that you are making us proud. You're representing Richmond well.
Yeah. Well
Good job.
Moving on to public commentary, Mrs. Claypool.
Did you want to say that?
You said we have two people.
Two.
I'll go ahead and read our script. The Board of School Trustees recognizes the value of public comment on educational issues and the importance of allowing members of the public to express themselves on corporation matters. The board wants to ensure the public feels welcome and that the concerns are answered in a timely, efficient manner. The maximum time for individual speakers is 5 minutes per person. The board expects personal decorum and factual information from the speaker. The president reserves the right to interrupt the speaker when the statement is too lengthy, personally directive, abusive, and obscene, or if it interferes with the orderly conduct of the meeting. Comments recognizing the work of staff and students are always welcome. However, critical remarks concerning specific school personnel or students are to be made through the complaint process available in policy 8130. School board members do not respond to public comments during the meeting. The public participant may receive a personal follow-up email from the board president within a week. Thank you. Mrs. Claypool?
No one? Katie?
The two people that signed up, we kind of are here together. Is there a chance that we can both speak on them at the same time?
There's two people signed up.
That's fine. Are they both students?
Yes.
Okay.
So just 5 minutes?
I think, can you, 5 minutes enough?
Yeah.
I think that'd be excellent.
Okay, I'm here on regards to the Civic Hall bathroom issues. Tiernan bathrooms too. Yeah, the Civic Hall and Tiernan bathrooms are both currently like off limits to students. And for someone who is a band kid, having the Civic Hall bathrooms right there is very useful because like if someone has some bodily issues, like they have to throw up or something, those are the closest ones to us. And the old Harry Potter bathroom just got renovated, so I mean that's closer, but it's still
a while away from right there. So I just think that having those bathrooms open would be very much appreciated, other than not having them open, because that can mess with a lot of time management in the band room as well. Because our like regular routine is we get to class, whoever needs to go to the bathroom goes then, because it's right there, so the directors are there and they unlock them, let them go. Then we come back, set up, and then they lock them back. That's our regular routine, and it has worked so far. And yeah, do you have anything to say about the tier room bathrooms?
Yeah, when there's male bathrooms only open and females have to walk all the way to the second floor to use them, and then we're getting in trouble for wandering where we're not supposed to be at, even though we have a pass from our designated teacher.
And young lady, if you don't mind just sharing your name as well.
Brooklyn Thompson.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson. Appreciate it.
And I have another, I don't want to say issue, but it's just something that I've thought about for a while, is that during our designated lunch times, if someone has too much anxiety or is super overwhelmed in that day, even the communities and schools room can be very overwhelming and anxiety inducing. Because I have definitely personally had those days. And so I go to a safe spot, which is the band room, and I will practice my music or do something productive to take my mind off of whatever is happening. And so when I got basically, I don't want to say yelled at, but I got lectured for having been not in the cafeteria when there was a director and somebody present and looking out for me where I was. There was, I don't know what the word is. Supervision. There was supervision provided. When I went back to go to my 4th period class on time, I got kind of lectured, and I was like, I don't know what to tell you. I can't handle being in that space with my mindset at the moment. So I go somewhere where it is quiet and I can do something productive and get stuff done, other than sit and then feel worse in a crowded area. So I just think that students should be allowed to be able to go somewhere during lunch times without having, as long as there's supervision provided and somebody knows where they're at. Yeah.
Brooklyn, anything else? And no one in Brooklyn, just so that you all know, as students in this forum, we do not necessarily respond. We simply hear, as President Weber alluded to, and we definitely are going to, we appreciate you all having the courage to speak up and speak out, and we'll definitely be looking into this. But we appreciate you all being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to item 4, consent items. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I come before you this evening to ask for approval of consent items 4.01, 4.02, and the addendum as presented.
I would move that we approve consent items 4.01 minutes and 4.02 human resources.
Motion by Brad Walton,
Second.
second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments?
Well, we got somebody that wants to retire that's been with us like 70 years, right?
That's why I'm tempted to vote no.
Yeah.
That's it. I just want to congratulate Chris for his terms of service.
May I say something in regards to that 70 plus years of service?
How many is it? Can we clarify exactly how many? How many?
46.
46.
It's hard to believe, but I remember the good old days, this long time ago, when you would have to deliver the board packets in those big blue binders. Ron, you remember those big blue binders, and drop them off at our doorsteps and everything else. And, you know, he's been a great ambassador for Richmond Community Schools all these years. Thank you.
Yeah, if I can add that I've known Chris for 35 plus years, so he's, you know, I've seen him go through the ranks and stuff up through schools as well. So he's been a very good asset for Richmond Community Schools over the years. He's going to be missed.
Are you going to do the deliveries on roller skates on the last day?
Oh, God. I don't even think
Memories.
Well, thank you very much for your service. It's, 40. It's quite the career. Anything else? All right, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5, or number 5, action items. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, before we move on, if you don't mind, I'd like to acknowledge the fact that after the approval of our human resources report and the addendum, along with indeed the retirement of Mr. Dunham, who again, 46 years, and as I can recall, as a student, and now back as an adult male, the consistency, the integrity, and what it is that you brought for your selfless service, just again impeccable. And so I would call you up to the podium, but I figured you'd pass, no doubt about it. We definitely appreciate you, and we love what you've done for us. Mr. Casey Dodd, I'm going to ask, join us at the podium. Mr. Dodd, you all just approved for him to be our new assistant principal at Tester Intermediate. Mr. Dodd comes to us as formerly serving in school districts in Mount Vernon, and he is indeed going to be beginning with us next Monday. So, Mr. Dodd, if you don't mind sharing what is it that you are most looking forward to in this new role as assistant principal, and just a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. I'll just start off with, first of all, I'm just so thrilled to have the opportunity to work in this community. I've worked in several different levels of education. In my 18th year, I've taught at the middle and high school level. I was an administrator at the elementary, the middle school, and the high school level. But people always ask me, you've worked with so many different groups, which do you like the best? And I like them all, but for completely different reasons. But there is something definitely special about that 5th and 6th grade age group. They're just so full of life. They're the kids that they still get excited about coming to school and wanting to learn. So it's a very impactful age group where if we do our job well, then it sets them up just for future success, and we can also build off all that success that they've had at these earlier levels. So just really excited to be able to jump into this, and really looking forward to Monday morning and getting started with everything. So just thank you so much for being accepting and having me join the team here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd. Yeah. Appreciate you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
President Weber. Yes, sir. I come back before you and trustees for our action items, and I'm going to ask that Mrs. Karen Scout, our Chief Financial Officer, join us for action item 5.01, the RHS Tower contract.
Okay, so before you tonight is the contract for the work on the RHS Tower. This is facade and roofing work. The contract is with Buckeye Construction and Restoration, Ltd. The bid was awarded August 24th of 2022, and the bids were originally received and opened on July 15th, 2022. All of the notice to bidders and publication proofs are on file in the business office, and tonight it's my recommendation that the board approve the RHS Tower contract with Buckeye Construction and Restoration Ltd.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion that we accept the contract as presented.
Motion by Jeff Slifer.
I'll second. Go ahead.
Second by Brad Walton. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Are we still with Mrs. Scout?
Actually, we are transitioning to our new Executive Director of Facilities, Mr. Glenn Schleifer, for action items 5.02 and 5.03. Mr. Schleifer, the floor is yours, sir. Welcome.
Thank you. This is the Dennis Intermediate School HVAC upgrade replacement contract with Carroll Electric. The bids for the Dennis HVAC upgrade replacement received and opened on Wednesday, October 12th of 2022. The notice to bidders was published in Palladium on September 9th and September 16th. proof of publication, and all bid documents are on file at the business office. The bid was awarded to Carroll Electric on October 26th. Proof of publication and all bid documents are filed at the business. Recommendation is that the Dennis School HVAC upgrade replacement contract with Carroll Electric be approved as presented.
Thank you. Entertain a motion.
I'll motion that we approve 5.02.
I'll
Motion by
second.
Brad Walton, second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
I do have a comment. It'll be nice your first time here. Just as a reminder, because we approved some additional cost on this budget. I was at a redevelopment commission meeting yesterday, and we still have a carryover of money allocated to the TIF district because of John Manville. So, it's about to, I think next month it rolls over again. I could send you the cash flow, but I think it accumulates to an amount of 50,000 a year. We'll pick up another 50,000 next year, and I don't think we used all of it from McGuire Hall. So as we move forward with either the allocation or the approval next year, we're going to have to come back and do the additional appropriation or the second add-on project. Keep in mind that there's several hundreds of thousands of dollars that we could still pull back through that to help with the funding.
Yeah, I might make a note, I actually have some plans for that money. So we'll be proposing some things soon, with that, so, but yes,
Aaron's ahead of
it's, I am. It's actually
But I just
been-
want to make sure we didn't lose
yeah.
sight of that.
Yeah.
So.
And it's really good of Manville to do that. They've actually requested that we utilize it for some specific programming. So we're trying to meet some of that need as well while we put that request in. But it is nice that they have set aside that because it has been rare in our city for businesses to do that. So we definitely appreciate that from them.
The redevelopment commission is the one that approves the funds, so that's where that's the group that we have to make happy.
Well, I know that,
I'm appreciative to John Mansville, but don't get me wrong.
I know that they in the past have been very supportive, and the redevelopment commission was acknowledged just earlier this week for the contributions and efforts regarding the water halls.
It was funny because the president of the commission yesterday, when we were going through the meeting and was looking at their cash flow, she looks over and she goes, "Yes, Jeff, your RCS money is still there."
Any additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Mr. Slade, back to you.
This next one is a contract for the approval of the Charles Roof replacement contract for Shamble and Sons. The bids for Charles Roof replacement were received and opened on Tuesday, October 11th, 2022. The notice to bidders were published and played an item on September 18th and 25th of 2022. Proof of publication and all bid documents are on file at business office. The bid was awarded to Shamble and Sons Inc. on October 26, 2022. Proof of publication and all bid documents on file at the business office. The recommendation is that the Charles Roof replacement contract with Shamble and Sons Inc. be approved as presented.
Thank you.
I move that we approve the Charles roof replacement as presented.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz,
Second.
second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to 5.04, Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, for action item 5.04, I ask that Mrs. Bolzer join our conversation for approval.
Good evening. I am seeking ratification on a memorandum of understanding to the 2021-2023 master contract that was originally ratified on December 21st, 2021. The amendment addresses newly discovered information to address current conflicts between the tentative agreement and the executed master agreement. While both sides entered mediation, both parties believed that the intent was to include the following changes in the ratified final agreement. The recommended changes are as follows. The There's 4 individual extra duty assignments. The original current compensation is $1,867. The recommended changes for them are $2,000. The compensation addendum shall become effective beginning with the 22-23 school year and will not be retroactive to the 21-22 school year. However, a retroactive payment will be made to the individuals performing these duties to the beginning of the 22-23 school year. This has been properly discussed and agreed upon with the Richmond Education Association. Mr. Cross has reviewed the final draft of the MOU. It is the recommendation that the Board of School Trustees approve the MOU to the 21-23 master contract as presented.
Mr. President, I move that we approve 5.04, the MOU to the 2021 to 2023 master contract as presented.
Motion by Aaron Stevens,
I'll second.
second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments?
Now, does this have to go to their membership for approval as well?
Yes, actually, it already has, and so they have ratified it. So it just needs our ratification. I think Ms.
She
McDermott
didn't sign yet.
was going to bring it? Okay,
Oh,
she
did
was going to come and bring it.
That's why I asked, 'cause it wasn't signed yet.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Dr. Wright?
President Weber, trustees, for action item 5.05, I come before you to retrieve approval for a salary increase for our administrators. Administrators will follow the compensation established for teachers and will be retroactive to the beginning. Pay will be retroactive to the beginning of the 2022-2023 school year as presented, sir.
Thank you.
Make the motion that we approve the administrative staff salary increases.
Motion by Jeff Slifer,
I'll second.
second by Keith Moore. Any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Mr. Slifer?
Go ahead.
Now, is there any body, I get confused between certified, classified, I mean, we have all these different terminologies. Is there anybody left in our corporation now that has not received, other than you, because you're under contract? But I mean, have we covered the other bodies as well? Because I know we've done class, janitorial and different staffs. So everybody is covered now.
I believe that at this juncture, Mrs. Bolster.
Close. Everybody but our substitutes. And that is definitely something that we are currently working on and discussing in that tier 2 plan that we have communicated. So yes, for our full-time and part-time staff, but our substitutes, that we are looking for a full-time or a long-term plan to address them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just wanted clarification on that.
Thank you.
And I thought it would be helpful for the public to know the intention with providing this raise. From what I understand, we want to be more competitive. And what were some of the other thoughts, though, in regards to this particular raise?
This particular raise is in accordance to the master contract agreement.
Okay.
This is just the
This is the second year of the contract.
second year.
Okay, so it was the existing.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay,
so teachers
gotcha.
get their raise off because we agreed to a 2-year contract.
Thank
last
you,
year.
yes.
And now we're
Okay.
just updating with the
Yep.
administrative to follow suit.
Okay.
And this
Nope.
is a standard practice that has been done for
Right.
years.
Nope.
It's nothing out of it's not something out of the blue that
Right.
we're
Yes.
giving administrators raise,
No.
but not teachers. It's all in line with the teachers.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you for making sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate the clarification because indeed, yes, that would have, yes, appreciate the clarification.
That could have been yes. It is.
Yeah, but thank you for the question, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
This is your standard practice. Yes,
All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 5.06, the alcohol request. Dr. Wright?
President Weber, trustees, the Art on the Green is an annual fundraiser to raise much needed conservation and acquisition funds for the museum. There at Richmond High, the local community donates artwork that they no longer want, and we resell the works for profit for the museum. It is a way for RAM to recycle artwork, and indeed, we come before you for approval of the request for alcohol as presented.
Thank you.
like to make the motion that we approve this alcohol approval for RAM, one of our partners.
Motion by Nicole Stoltz.
Second.
Second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments?
Yeah, I do want to point out that this particular event, the Richmond Art Museum was able to bring in, I believe it was over $6,000, which really helped that organization, and I was glad that, and that was largely because we were able to approve this last year, so this is the second time. It's kind of a repeat event, so.
So this would be an opportunity if someone wanted to purchase local art, you could come and have an opportunity to buy
Yes.
works of art from local artists,
Yeah.
correct?
So the way the event works, on the 15th, or is that right? 15th? No, that's the wrong date. For $15, that's right. For $15 on
November
the 18th, I'm gonna throw some numbers at everybody. You have the opportunity to purchase the art first. You get first dibs, basically. And along with that event, there are hors d'oeuvres and wine that's all included in the price. And then throughout that weekend, the art that's not sold that first night is available. So it's open to the community, and Keith, as you said, it's mostly local art at very, it's a value. So it's very reduced prices because it's recycled, and that's the whole concept. Is this is something that maybe Brad had in his collection and decided, you know what, I don't want this anymore. I don't have wall space for it, and then donates it, and then someone else has the opportunity. Yes, exactly.
Excellent.
So
Nicole, you are on the RAM board, correct?
I am. Do I need to?
Mr. Cross, can she vote on this as a RAM board member and a RCS board member?
Can she vote on it?
On the alcohol request?
Yeah, I
by
don't
the
think she
RAM?
has pecuniary interest unless you don't own
I'm-
Cordial Corp, do you?
I don't.
Adam would
Not
like
yet.
to know about it. The only thing I would not, this is totally in order. Rams, obviously, they were the first one to utilize this policy. They got it down. The insurance rider that is part of the packet is a specimen. So make sure that whoever is in charge of the administration finalizing this, make sure that the actual policy that issues does name Richmond Community Schools as an additional insured. And I'm sure it will. It's issued by Van Vliet, I believe. They know the ropes too, but they just happen to have a specimen in this packet, and it doesn't say any additional insured.
Okay, so we'll follow up on that. All right, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to policy review and update. We have two policies on first reading. Happy to entertain.
I will make a motion
Long
that we move 6.01 bylaw 0167.5 or 0.6, electronic participation by board members in board meetings, first reading, and 6.02 policy 5450, local purchasing, first reading to second reading.
Second.
Thank you. A motion by Brad Walton, second by Aaron Stevens. Any questions or comments on either of those two policies? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 6.03. Again, we have two policies for second three. Let's take the first two, if someone
I
make a
will do
motion.
that. I will make a motion that we approve 6.03 policy 2460, educational surrogate parent policy, and 6.04 policy 2461, least restrictive environment policy, and we approve them.
Motion by Brad Walton,
Second.
second by Kristen Brunton. Any questions or comments on either of these two policies? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 6.05, bylaw 0144.1, compensation, second reading.
I move that we approve 6.01 bylaw 0144.1 compensation.
And I'll second it.
Motion by Kristen Brunton, second by Nicole Stoltz. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item 7, item 7 work session. Dr. Wright.
President Weber, trustees, I come before you for item 7, the work session regarding item 7.01, the transportation contract, as has been presented and introduced by our central office leadership team. We simply ask that you all engage in dialogue and conversation regarding the transportation contract, as indeed it has been presented.
Thank you. I believe the intention is to bring this to the next meeting for a vote. So if anyone has any questions at this time, please put them on the table.
I just have one. I guess I'll direct it at Ms. Gauff, because we'd looked at this or had some type of conversation about it for about a month now. If we delay until the next board meeting, is that going to cost us anything? I know that.
I think it will. It's gonna cost us some relationship value, for sure. I think that having had the conversation for such a lengthy amount of time, having worked through the questions that had been posed, having negotiated this for a month in advance of the month that we have now been reviewing this at the board level, I can honestly say it's going to cost us some relationship value. And I don't know what that means, and I'm going to be really blatantly honest with you tonight. I don't know what that means. And I have concerns myself about that because it's going to make what we do harder. And we have a vendor that has worked hard for us. They work hard for our kids every day, and they do their very best. And they are trying to do better. They will be here from Jeffersonville tomorrow to meet with the team. And another delay, I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be really honest with you guys. It disappoints me to an extreme degree because I have seen the work they put in. They are trying to get everything fixed. And I'm having, I guess I don't understand at this point because I know the hours that we put into this particular item. I know the hours that it's not just me. So I see it from a lot of people. So do I think that it hurts us? Absolutely, to delay. Absolutely. We know the struggle we've had in finding drivers, and it only creates more. So when there are questions, it's questions for everybody, and it's 10 times more for the workers that are putting in the hours. So, I mean, that's just the reality of it. I hope that tonight that you can see that. We've tried really hard to meet each of your needs and the things that we have addressed in this contract and worked toward. I would really appreciate that consideration tonight from you. I really would. So thank you, Mr. Stevens, for asking that question because I truly appreciate it.
Well, I didn't realize it was going to elicit that response, but thank you. Thank you.
And Mrs. Scalp, I believe that you are indeed, as we all are, prepared to answer any questions that
Yes,
still may
absolutely.
exist regarding the transportation contract.
Well, I want to start off by saying the 4.5-page report and the update was exceptional. gave us, or gave me, I can't speak for everyone, a very clear representation of what's going on, you know, what I appreciated you saying, you know, just this is the expectation, this is the current situation. This is, you know, on multiple levels. I was excited to see some of the initiatives that we're looking at as far as iPads on the bus and the tracking, and the systems that are in place to allow parents to track where their kid is at any given time. That's impressive. In fact, I wanted you to tell the public what that looks like and what that, you know, just
Sure.
because I think that's exciting. So do you mind
No, not at
speaking
all.
about that a little bit?
So we're in the process of creating an environment in which parents can actually track their student as they get on the bus. They will be able to see if they're on their normal bus or if they hopped on the bus with a friend. They will be able to watch them on an app. They will be able to look at that. We're also looking at the possibility of additional communication tools, because that is one thing that we feel is vital to getting better at, and making that communication much more fluid and much quicker between parents and the bus garage. And so, you know, we knew that was an area we wanted to expand on and get better. We've worked all summer to find a financially responsible answer to it. And our current software platform actually provided that answer this summer. It's a new option with them, and it went through pilot last year, so we've been watching it. And we're excited. We want to do, the goal is that we'll do a soft rollout before the Christmas break, and then we'll implement over the second semester. So we want to make sure that we can get communication out to parents once we have that and know how it's going to work, exactly what it's going to look like. We'll be having meetings at the buildings. I hope to do some town hall meetings with parents so that we can talk about what that looks like, and put some information out on social media once we have that, so that parents can get familiar with it and we can use it to its capability. I know that the bus garage and the staff in Jeffersonville are super excited about it, because we've been working on this for a couple of years now and trying to find an answer that fit us well and didn't cost a ton of resources that were unable to be found. And so I'm super excited about it. I think that it's going to be a really great solution for our families. I have a student in the district. I'm really excited about it, and it's going to work naturally with some other platforms that we use, so that we can use it with food services, and we're looking at maybe using it in some other areas as well. And so just to streamline processes, make it easier for our kids, easier for our parents, and easier for our bus drivers. They'll be able to have a list at any given time of who's on that bus. And it's all gonna naturally work with their GPS systems that are already there. And so I'm excited about it. I think it's gonna be great. We got confirmation last week that it's on its way. So we should be getting the actual physical equipment needed in the next week or two. So it's moving along and we're really excited. So more information to come.
Yep.
But that's definitely something we're working on.
Good. No, thank you for going into that. I was excited when I read about it, but then I was like, okay, what is this, flesh it out for us?
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Mrs. Scoff, I also understand and recall last year, during this time, I believe, unfortunately, the gentleman is no longer with us, but Mr. Newhart, I believe was his last name, had come and approached and addressed our trustees there in Civic Hall, because indeed he, as well as the sorrow vendor, were not pleased with the level of service that they were providing at that particular time. I know that things had improved after his visit. Can you speak to some of the conversations that you've had with the sorrow line?
Yeah, so members of the board got this information, but I have been in weekly conversations with the Jeffersonville team. In fact, it's usually multiple times a week. I talk with the bus garage at least 3 times a week, if not every day. I'm just to touch base to try to get better. No one expected the driver shortage to be to the degree it is, and so I have to say they have devoted 2 of their HR personnel to constant recruitment for us. So they are working very hard toward that. We've exhausted every option that we've ever thought of. We've gone out and done that. We've walked the streets. We've stopped in diners. We have put out signs, which you will see around the community. We've done billboards. We've done job fairs. And so I really do think that the effort that has been made is substantial for us. I know that we made some great gains over the summer, only to lose some of those gains right away at the beginning of the year, so we didn't feel them. That was really disheartening, but they jumped right in and got going again. And so we did get to add 2 routes over the fall break. That made a substantial difference once we returned. We are seeing great gains at this point, and we continue to recruit and work toward that. Part of the contract was increased costs so that they could provide market wages in order to attract, because we are losing a number of drivers to the market in our community. And so that is a part of the contract. It was something that we did not take lightly. They had not increased the amount of the contract in a really long time, 8 years, I believe, or longer. And so they really have been financially responsible to us and with us. They have been willing to talk their solutions before we look at cost increases. And so I appreciate about them. Not every vendor will do that with us. And so it does make a tremendous difference when we talk about getting things done.
Thank you.
I think I appreciate all the time, and you put a lot of time and effort, and I think that your answers to the questions would help. And my only concerns were, I guess, when the contract first came out, was the 5-year contract, and we changed that now to 3. And also just holding accountability, I guess, because we have had a lot of bus issues, and we are signing a new contract with that same company when there's been so many issues. So there needs to be, accountability, so that we're not just sticking with what we're doing and maybe something else is out there. As far as finding bus drivers, is that their role or our role to do?
It is their role, and they do it. However, I believe that knowing the community is important, and so we both work together. So I will provide them with some places to go and people to see, and I'll touch base with them so that they know they're coming. So what I will say is our bus drivers are our team too, and they are as much RCS as they are Sodrel. And so it's super important to me that they feel that way, and that they know that I'm going to bat for them too to get them help. And so that's something that we've been really good about working together on. For the most part, they do almost all of that legwork. But I do offer that to them because I know town, and I know people around town. And so I can stop by a place and I might know 3 people where they might not know as many. And so I don't mind doing that. I think that that's a good way that our drivers also know that I am invested in them, and that we as the RCS team are invested in them, and that we truly are working together for the whole, and that's for our kids. So.
And I guess I understand that. That makes sense that, but I also understand our contract is for them to do that work, and we're using our resources to do that. So that's the only thing I would question, is how much are we getting involved in if we're paying them a large sum of money to do this job and they're not succeeding at it in ways, I don't know.
Well, I think, you've all seen my concerns. I think we've got to balance, and I'm not trying to belittle any of Karen's work with Sodrel, but we have to balance and I even told either Dr. Wright or you this afternoon, the update that we got was a lot of information, and some of it was a little confusing for me, but I'm sitting there thinking that we in this 4 page of information, the problem is the board's been left out of that. And what I say is, you refer to monthly reports and statistics and how stuff is reported monthly, and I can't remember ever receiving any kind of a report like that. But so what we have to do is we have to strike a balance to make sure that the board is comfortable, because this is a $2.5 million contract. I'll give you an opportunity here in a minute. It's going from a 2.1. the whole conversation started because of the increase in labor cost and shortage, and they wanted to increase bus pay, and the gas price goes up. So we had, I think it was in the finance meeting, we had a quick conversation about, well, we can understand the increased cost. We've all incurred that. So should we look at some kind of an indicator or a CPX index or a gas price index or something that would allow for adjustment? So, I think part of this is the board wrapping their head around this, because even though this is a service contract, I want to make sure that we're transparent. Not that we're trying to do anything behind the back, but I think, so as I go through and I was reading the proposed contract, and it has several exhibits that are associated with it. Well, the exhibit D, I was concerned with, metrics. As I was reading for cause, to me it was very confusing on what constituted for cause, because not talking about the external factors that's happening, shortage of the drivers and stuff that out. I mean, whatever those reasons are, I was looking at if we as a school system wanted to be able to look at a metric to measure the performance of how they're doing their job. I mean, because it is a job for them. It's a $2.5 million job for them. So to me, it was very unclear on what metric they're being held to, because in Exhibit D, and I don't have it up, but it basically, the first paragraph in Exhibit D talks about the responsibilities and requirements. And it talks about board, says we're going to hold them the standard basically to board policies and guidelines and stuff like that. Well, I feel like, should we not list those? I mean, in the contract itself, it really doesn't provide any metric for measurement of performance. Now, do we have those metrics? Does Karen keep track of those, or whoever keep track of them? Probably does. But if I was Sodrel and I was looking at this contract, then I would argue that we never formally, or at least to my knowledge, have sent any formal notification to them at all in the last year or so that we've had trouble with bus routes kids being delivered late. Now, maybe that doesn't come to the board, I don't know. But when we notify them for cause, then they have 30 days to remedy that. So officially, have we notified them or not? I don't know. So if we ever had to sever the contract because of non-performance, how solid are we in our contract with them that will allow us the ability to do that for some reason if we had to? I'm not saying we want to, but I'm sitting here thinking, if I'm going to sit here and say, well, wait a minute, we want to sever the agreement because all of a sudden you're delivering half of our students late half the times, or I've had a lot of parental complaints about nobody answers phones at the bus garage. So nothing in that contract that we are approving, the 13 pages of the contract and all the exhibits, nothing says that we're going to measure your performance, that you're going to deliver all of these students on time 99% of the time. And I'm just using that as it could be any metric or multiple metrics. I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying that has to be an example. So, my concern is as we look at this, are we protecting our school system with the contract, in my opinion, being kind of vague, which is basically the comments that I had is, should we tighten that up a little bit? Should we put metrics in there? Should we, because if our students are being, every one of us has gotten a different report, but we've had problems with some deliveries and short routes because of short drivers for over a year now. Almost a year and a half. Unless I've missed it, I've seen no formal notice to them that says, hey, wait a minute, you're falling short on your job. No. And I understand their intent. It's not personal. I'm not trying to attack somebody. I mean, actually, we're doing them a favor in a way because the contract doesn't end until June 30th of next year. I mean, we actually have another 8 years of contract. Now, I understand we want to wrap it up so there's no questions and there's no lapse in service and everybody feels warm and comfortable. And so what I was trying to generate was a conversation over the last 3 or 4 weeks of how do we have it worded well enough to protect our interests? Do we have it well, because you would have to ask yourself, if you're sitting in a position of where you're going to approve a contract, you got several questions to ask yourself. One, should we bid it? $2.5 million contract, should it go out for bid? Okay, I understand that this is a little different relationship and we don't have to. And I'm not saying that we want to, because Sodrel, has been a good number, but it's just protection. Should we be a little tighter?
I mean, I'll try to summarize. I mean, I think we've had the performance issues for the last, 18 months last year, and then they continued on into the fall. And so I think Karen and administrative that worked really hard to come up, if we identified, $370,000 between salaries, gas, and insurance costs, if we can increase the amount to them, we think that can take care of some of these problems. So I think the board was okay. But then I think with that came the concern, you can't teach a school if they're not even a kid, if they're not even in the school. So the late, we should not have late buses at all. And so I think the board was like, okay, if we're going to fund some additional dollars, it seems reasonable to have some more firm teeth. And I know they say, but we're all just saying, well, no one was happy. Well, the kids have to be in the buildings on time. And so I think to make that point, we've asked for some additional, assurances that will happen. And I think that's fair and just. And I think from Sodrel, I think they should know. We just cannot continue to have buses late to buildings. And by spending almost $400,000 more dollars, I think we're pretty serious about it. I hope they are too. But I get a little concerned when it's, we still don't have, what is our on-time percentage? That should be a number we know.
It is currently 85%, and if I just might say something about this, we currently have not paid them extra yet. This contract does that.
Yeah.
The one thing that I need everybody to know is, yes, we have notified them that things were not okay. All right? They were here within 24 hours and made extreme differences within that time. So they are responsive. I don't tell you guys every time we have trouble with the vendor, because if they fix it, we don't have trouble with the vendor. So that's the part that I know that it's hard to see that, but that's part of my, I understand that, but no one, and I will say no one expected a shortage in this manner, and it is nationwide. No one. And so no one likes it. Every time we would gain drivers, we'd lose 4 more. That I cannot help that. They could not help that. They haven't given raises since 2005. 2005. So what we are combating is a multitude of concerns that both parties are trying to resolve with this contract. Now, I totally, 100% understand the concerns. I understand the teeth, but I have to have a contract that can give it to me. If I haven't exhausted the options in order to fix the problem, how can I ask them to fix it? Because if I know there's things we need to fix them. If there are things they need to fix, but they can only do it with certain measures in the contract, we have to give them that option, I guess, at that point. Or we have to change our thought process in that method. So I will say I have sent notices. I feel like we are fully documented should any trouble come that we need to go that way. I feel like I have received unbelievably good responses because it has not one time fallen on deaf ears. So that part, I can tell you they have changed our entire representative structure based on one phone call from me. So I know that they are working for us to get this fixed too. I know it's frustrating. It's frustrating for them. They are as frustrated as we are because they do not understand why we cannot find people. But what I know is we're not the only school dealing with this. And so as frustrating it is for us, it's frustrating for a lot of people too. So I'm not saying that's not okay. I will say the time that I put into recruitment is pretty minimal. It's a phone call. I mean, like once a week to touch base. It's, hey, what do you need me to do? But I really don't spend, I mean, it is their people doing it. So I'm here to help, but I'm helping, but it's not substantial time by any stretch of the imagination. Their people are doing it. So that's the thing. I just want you to understand that I do document things. You have seen when I have had to contact a vendor, when they don't like it, they email you. When they're responsive, they change it. And you tend to not see that. It's not, we have vendor issues sometimes, but when they fix them, you never need to know. So it's a good thing. That's the way it's supposed to work, right? So I do want you to know that we are working, we are holding them accountable. I am trying my very best to assist them where they need it, but I also know they feel 100% responsible. So it's not like I'm doing their job. And so I don't want you feeling like we're not doing that. That's the part that it's hard to see at the board level because you're not in that day to day. And I totally get that. My door is always open. So please stop by. When you're feeling that way, talk to me about it because I can tell you what we're doing every single week, every single day. And so no one likes the situation that it's in right now. This contract provides some solutions, and if they don't work, then I'm going to go from there. But right now, I don't have the option on the salary piece that we're talking about with this contract. So that's the part that I just know that no one is happy. They aren't happy. We aren't happy. So.
And the salary piece is what allows you to get a driver that.
Correct.
Because.
Correct.
You're not going to get above 85% if I can walk somewhere else and get $3 more an hour.
$6 more an hour.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
$6 more an hour. So I'm walking. Right. And what do?
I get my employer to pay for my CDL training.
Right.
Right.
And
so
that's what Wayne County is doing now to get CDLs for the highway department.
Yeah. So
and we're trying to get a contractual commitment that they will stay with us for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's the desperation the Wayne County government has had to go to put people in snowplows.
Mm-hmm.
And I would respectfully suggest that putting people in school buses is, frankly, I guess it's either or. I mean, you can't get to school if you can't get to the snow. Fundamentally, I agree with John.
We still have 180 days of school. We don't get 180 days of snow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think it is. You got to have the kids in the school. But that is what's happening. I talked to Roger Smith. I talked to what's going. All the
it's
all
everywhere.
The township schools, the metropolitan school townships in Greene County are having a real problem.
Sorry, Ron. Correct me if I'm wrong. What I'm hearing is until we do everything in our power to facilitate these transportation issues, we aren't actually even at the point of looking at performance measurements. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
It is, but I do look at performance. So what you saw are the things I give them every single year.
Right.
So they see that
But I'm saying
in writing every
above
single
and
year.
beyond that.
Correct.
That we would be putting
Correct.
in addition into a contract.
Correct.
Right.
But we're under
Yes.
contract with them now until June, correct? Is that-
Correct.
And so they agreed to the
Right.
terms until June, and we signed that contract, and now we're giving them more money to deal with some of those
what
Does that
Jamie?
make sense?
I just said that's well before the fuel escalations to be fair. And the state did provide quite a few tools because they knew that this was such a hindrance to all the schools that they were up against, that there was special legislation to address this because of the heightened cost with transportation. And what I would also suggest in this is their problem would quickly become our problem. And we are not in a position to handle it any differently because it is a shortage. It's a national shortage, and every single school is dealing with this. So they have a work crew, a fleet right now that they have that they can draw from. They're trying to expand that. And I can tell you just from what this board allowed us to do with our support staff and the paraprofessionals, I signed more paraprofessionals in the last couple weeks than what I've been able to do because of that dollar increase. That helped us tremendously. So I think, you know, going back to your point, does this help them help us go above that 85% threshold in order to being able to do that and to also retain who they have so they're not consistently working against themselves?
So, first off, just again, the last board report, I was like, wow. I mean, you're doing, when did she find time to write the budget, to work on the budget? Literally, I mean, that's a lot. Yeah, or sleep. Well, the answer to that is probably didn't. But, and I appreciate all of that work. That's a lot. My question is, because I like, Aaron was like, oh, I didn't expect. I can see the frustration and I get it. You're putting in a ton of work, and I appreciate. What is my question is about the timeline. When is the I have the impression from you that like, hey, we're looking to like in the perfect world, if everything had gone just as planned, when would the contract? It sounds like have been squared away.
We began this work in August. When we lost the drivers at the beginning of the year, and we were like, what are, because every one of them we lost to local agencies that paid more. So I met with the executive committee very early on in September, and the goal was October, so I negotiated through September with Student Transit with the goal to have it to you guys October first meeting, which I did. You had it at your stations for review. We were gonna bring it back the last meeting of October. It got delayed. So reality was, their understanding was, okay, September's negotiation, October's approval. So if we continue to delay, I don't know what to tell them because it looks, I'm gonna be honest, it looks bad. And I get it, I know, but they need to make the moves. And so they're nervous about making the moves without any kind of, because the old contract doesn't have that kind of funding in it. They can't do that under the old contract. So they don't, I mean, fuel prices are what they are. They're really hard. I don't have any provisions to write one-off checks right now in the current contract. So I'm a sitting duck. They're a sitting duck. And so it's not really working for either one of us at the present. So I will say that it really needed to be done yesterday, if I want to be realistic about it, because they wanted to go ahead and start getting ahead of this. And it's just really hard. I mean, I want to answer any questions that you have, because the part that I know is everybody's trying to do their best and get it better. And so that's the part, if it's about questions, I'm here. Like, I've been here for the last 4 weeks while you've had this for review. And I guess I was just taken back tonight when it got changed, because I'm like, why? I thought I didn't see any extra questions. And so, like, I'm here. Like, if you have questions, please let me know, because that's the part we need.
Mrs. Scalf, if I can, I apologize to interject. I'm curious to know, and Mr. Schleifer had referenced Exhibit D there within the contract, and in our conversation regarding performance, and of course we indeed are looking to SARO to improve upon performance. But if you can just elaborate and just share where it reads in Exhibit D, Item 1. roughly 0.3 of that particular page of the document. Likewise, vendors' performance of the contracted services shall be done in such a manner as to sustainably comply with all applicable administrative guidelines duly established by the RCS administration to implement the board policies. Should issues arise during the initial term or during any renewal term of this agreement, resolution of such issues shall be such as to most nearly comply with the objectives of the board policies and procedural requirements of applicable administrative guidelines. Is that indeed the language that we are content and comfortable with in holding SOTO accountable if indeed we are seeing similar performances that we've seen thus far, or?
Yes, because yes,
Mhm.
we provide them with our applicable administrative I give them, like, I meet with them in the spring. I meet with them all the time, but in the summer, I provide them with the expectations for the year. There is no question. That's the first thing when I called. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing something. So I called the bus garage and I'm like, tell me what my expectations are. And everything I put on that board report is exactly what they also rattled off to me, because I have tried really hard to shore up that communication. So there were no questions between them and us. So that's the part that they know what the expectations are. It's in writing, so they know, and when it's not being held, I draw the line, and I'll even call them and say, you are going to get an email. Be aware, you're going to get an email. And it's 24 hours or less. I had a call within 8 minutes of my last email, and they were here next day on site fixing it. And they stayed all week. And so I'm going to be honest with you. We don't have many vendors like that. And so that's what I know. Like, I feel like this substantially holds them accountable as well as us, because I need to do what you as the board members set in policy. I need to do what we as administrators, both at the central and building level, needs. And so that's the part that I feel like this does have teeth. I know that it's hard to see that because it looks vague, but it does hold a lot of value in my book, because when it says procedural requirements, we set those. And if we change a start time, the procedural requirement is what? So I feel like we do have any teeth that we need to make any changes that we need. I know that
Karen, that's helpful for you to say that, because, the first line where it says, vendor's performance of the contract services shall always be guided by the mutual intent of vendor and RCS, that's very vague, So when you go from that to, okay, actually, we're looking specifically at these procedures, specifically at these policies. Thank you again for fleshing that out, because that's helpful to see.
What you guys don't know, and I didn't include, I get GPS data every week. I know every minute that a bus didn't hit my 15. I am not very nice. I'm gonna be real honest with you. Like, I call them and I'm like, why were we here? What was this? And sometimes it's because a kid was running down the street to get there, and they're like, we need to get them. And so, I would say that happens a lot. And so I would rather them have the empathy for our families when they're that close, but it does make a minute or two difference sometimes. And so that's the part I don't like to share, because it's the nitty gritty of what we do, but it is what we do.
But at the same time, I think that as we move forward, again, given the fact that constituents at times reach out and share with you all the concerns, as we all share the same concerns of performance, whether it be inside our classrooms, outside our classrooms. I think as we move down the road, sharing some of the efforts that have been made. And so I appreciate that. Thus is the rationale behind my question, and I appreciate you fleshing that out. However, at the same time, and I apologize to, I hope I'm not putting the gentleman and scholar on but Attorney Cross, I'm curious, if you don't mind. I'm not sure if I'm even allowed to ask such a question, but if indeed
you're the boss,
is the language that is found within the current contract as presented, is it language that I think, as you would say, does this language give you heartburn by any chance, or is this something that you're comfortable with?
No, any issue is going to be fact sensitive. I do not want to be put in the position of having to suggest that we can have common starting times at Denison High School, have routes that have to meet both those starting times, and they're both going to be, and we're going to say that they both have to be there on time. We have created that situation. Now, why we haven't rectified it, I don't have that answer, but I do know that I'm not going to go very far with any type of, fist approach.
I agree, and I know Ms. Unsini's working on the calendar committee, and I would charge, I think research says later start time for high school kids makes sense. I would look at staggered start time as that calendar committee is.
Well, and
That's my point. My point is there are going to be, every issue is going to have some factual onions to peel,
Best
so to
practice
speak.
for students.
But I think, sorry, but I think that there's a number of pieces that piece of information has to inform, and one of them is getting creative with that scheduling piece, but also getting creative within those buildings on scheduling. So I assume there are times that are what we would call homeroom sort of type things. If those can be pushed into the morning, if that 20-minute piece there, that gives you that bumper for all, because it's not kids that are just coming late on the bus. It's not buses that are showing up late. There are kids that are dropped off every day 5 minutes after the bell rings. Every day. I know it. And it happens at every school.
So you live it.
I live it. I live it.
Yeah.
So, but that's where we need to be creative on lots of fronts on that end. But and gosh, that's hard to get those administrators thinking in that way, and the 20 people on a calendar committee thinking in that way. And how does it? I mean, we know it's hard because, like you just pointed out, how long has it been since we did the switcheroo
with middle schools?
Right, we created that and we haven't fixed it yet.
That was one of the things in the report that kind of caught me by surprise on the update, was the fact that that's the first time that I remember us hearing as a board that that's created a problem for the last year.
I might make a note that when the proposals came out, we had a transportation report with each of the options. And with those, it said whether we needed to add routes or not. That particular option showed we did need to add 8 to 9 routes. So it was a part of the report when it was reviewed originally. So I know that
we're not doing a good job then in our communication and helping to figure out how to solve the problem, because the problem is just being recurring. There is one other point that I think is important that I don't want to lose sight of. And I don't mean this any disrespect to Sato. But there also is another part that I think this is the first time that the contract's been presented publicly. And I think it's a good thing for transparency reasons that, I would rather have a contract proposed, and this is the first time that it's been proposed publicly, and then time for public comment at the next meeting, or anything like that. I think that other piece of it would help, is letting them know that, because I don't think, unless I'm wrong, I don't think we've had this contract out publicly yet until tonight, right?
I have to ask, do we do that with any other contracts we have? That would be change of practice for me. I'm not sure that we do that with any other vendor contracts.
Well, I think that we've made I've tried to make an effort that we're not approving things at the same night that they've been. I could think of lots of things that we've put in not off the top of my head, but it seems like we've had big decisions in the past that we bring out a week ahead.
We had 2 tonight. We had 2 big contracts tonight that we didn't follow that practice on. So it's a change for me, and I do a lot of contracts, so I want to make sure.
We had already approved the totals in that previously, just awaiting the actual contract. Those were bids that we had already approved previously.
So Jeff, what are some contracts we've done that with?
I can't, off the top of my head, I can't think right now, but I just think it does good for us especially since we've had parents stand up and say, I can't get a phone call answered at the bus garage, or I can't. This is a big contract. This is $2.5 million.
I think, and I guess looking through the policies and administrative guidelines, I see no numbers regarding route length, our on-time percentage. So if we're sitting at this table a year from now and you're saying we're at 87%, that's unacceptable. So I don't know what our number is. It seems like the very high 90s should be the goal. I can't find a number listed anywhere.
I will say 100% is the goal, and it's the goal that we have, it's the goal that Sauter has. 100% is the goal, and that's where we are going. And so we were there before the shortage. And so I know that we will get there, but I mean, that's the goal. So
If come next October, November, if it's, I mean, it's just 85%.
But I think
not
I
acceptable.
don't disagree. But if we're gonna say that, then we got to do our part, right? We have to make sure that our start times are staggered so that they can meet those goals. Because
Well, the first thing we were offered, the suggestion was to pay the $370,000, and I think we came to the plate right away. I don't think there was much hesitation on that. Maybe a little, just because it's a lot of money, but that was the first suggestion. I think the calendar piece has come later.
Well, that's what.
But that hasn't kicked in yet.
That's
Is
this
what I've
contract.
heard.
That's correct. Huh?
That's this contract, though,
Yeah.
right?
That's what we're talking about, right?
Well, they are.
So with that,
I've seen it firsthand. I know a lot of bus drivers personally that have all left and gone to work with the city, gone to work for other school corporations around here, and they didn't want to go. But when you dangle that carrot in front of people, it's
If they haven't had a raise since 2005,
that's ridiculous.
But is that on us or on the bus company who should be offering the raises? We're not
we
offering the raises.
pay them. They
So
have to make
base
it work.
But when they signed the contract for 5 years, when we signed it before, I mean, did they plan on giving raises? Was the figure that they gave us then?
To your
I guess
point-
I'm
to
just
your
like in the
point,
business
though.
contract world, that when you have a contract, that's up to the bus garage or bus
To-
company to figure out what that is gonna be and anticipate rising costs.
Well, I think that the issue is that our funding is tax-based. So when we negotiated the last contract, I didn't have extra to give them because at the time we didn't have the growth quotient. So we had nowhere to go. We were stuck and that was it. And we were getting hit by circuit breaker. We have the growth quotient now. So we can factor that as being an applicable way that we can make this contract funded. So it's a totally different way that happened. So during the last contract, we had to amend our walk zones dramatically. If those of you on the board remember that, it was a huge conversation because we had to cut $390,000 from the costs of how to make it work within that contract because I said we don't have the money to fund more. We didn't have rainy day available for that because it wasn't ongoing. We didn't have the growth, but we don't have, now there's measures we can increase our levy based on transportation costs. That was not an option. So that's where in the prior contract, yes, they wanted to do that, but as costs increased, we told them there's no extra money. So some of that was our choice when we went and negotiated that last contract because, I mean, at that point I was told, this is where we're going to be financially. This is where we as a board are comfortable. We're gonna make those decisions on the walking zones so that we can get there. And that was, everyone agreed to that and we all worked really hard to get there. So that is why, Mrs. Brunton, it didn't change with that because we had set that stage. Now, they have made adjustments to paid training. They pay for e-learning days and snow days so that they can keep drivers. They are eating some of those costs. They will continue to do that with this contract because they know that's how you keep people. But I also know that they can't eat 100% of that, which is why they need this new piece. And they get fuel costs I can't get. I had a conversation on a Saturday morning over a penny for delivery costs of fuel for them because we were trying to figure out, okay, if we had it delivered to this place instead of the garage and then they go pick it up, it would save like 12 cents per gallon. And so there are a lot of things to this that they work for us on their pricing that I know I can't get.
and then also, what is our alternative? there are potentially other places. But if we're running our own transportation, right? You said you made a call, and they're bringing drivers from other places. I know they brought drivers. If we're running our own transportation, we are the only place. We're not. There are no drivers to bring from.
Correct.
Right. The other thing to think about too is we had this conversation today. 6 years ago, you could go down to Jiffy Lube and get an oil change for $29.99. That same oil change now costs you $69.99. Mr. Slifer, let's speak in your terms.
Uh-oh.
Okay, you have an order for 100 rolls of 250-foot 12-2 Romex. And
if I could get 100 rolls.
Okay, but at the time I buy them for $89 a roll, and then
It's like the band presentation.
now it's $180 a roll. I need
Well,
you.
I don't think. I
No,
think we're
what I'm saying is.
Well, but I think we're losing
But
sight.
no,
I'm not talking.
let me finish.
We agreed to give them increased money. I think that's not the discussion here. The discussion for me is the language written tough enough in the contract that we can react to it, because applicable board policies and guidelines doesn't tell me anything. Applicable guidelines could be changed without the board ever seeing them. That was my first question. Should we be more intentional in the contract? The second question is, I didn't want a 5-year contract with 2 automatic 1-year renewals. I wanted a 3-year only, because I don't like passing a contract and tying, the 2 new board members that just got elected. If we approved a 5-year contract, we've tied their hands. They don't even have an opportunity to weigh in on the transportation contract.
And we've adjusted that to a 3-year.
Yeah, so, there's still the 2-year automatic renewals in it.
Well, that protects everybody.
Yeah.
If it's working, it's working.
But what I don't like is the automatic renewal, because then the onus is on us to, we should have conversations, so it's not automatic.
Do we not task our central office team or cabinet
And
and
then
say, make sure that we're,
And then the third piece of it is.
Well,
checking
it
the
sounds like
pulse
we
at that
do. That's
time.
what she's saying.
Right.
She's doing all the time.
So
That's what I
feel-
hear.
I'm good with that.
Well, I mean, I
But
think
go
we've
on,
had
Jeff,
the
I didn't mean
conversation
to-
on this over a more protracted time than just September 1 of this year. I mean, I think there was some discussion as to whether we wanted to even put it out for bids at the end of 23, and the board decided, and the administration, and I think rightly so, that you all had too much on your plate at the time.
Right.
To think about terminating this approach to providing this service.
Right.
Because I am tending to agree with, I don't know that you do have a practical option, because I don't see other people doing it. And then you gotta realize that the indirect cost of employment, fringes, pension, what have you, that's why we outsourced this, much to the consternation of our own internal fleet at the time, for those of you who went through that.
Yep. Yeah, I
So-
went through that. That's my whole, that's the part that I'm just trying to say, is I just want to make sure that the contract is specific enough and termed right. I mean, it isn't about the money, because we were agreeing tonight.
I guess I'm sensing the consensus of the board is to maybe go, that they're okay with the contract. I think Ron has offered some clarity on, obviously, if this is the situation next year, we can get out of the contract for costs, correct?
Yeah, I think we gotta start, I think we are monitoring the contract. I think the suggestion that we're not, is probably not a valid suggestion. That being said, we have to continue to monitor it, and I think we have to make sure they understand, as apparently they do, because I've not been parties to any of those conversations, nor have you, but they have to understand the importance to the board of improving the situation, regardless of what the cause is. The cause is the cause. The results are the proof of the pudding, so to speak. And 85%, no matter how dire the shortage, is not acceptable. That being said, if you chose to declare a default, okay, you declare a default. What's your plan B? I think the first thing you have to take a look at is your own board policy, because I'm not sure you're going to be able to meet those metrics for distance. All I know, and again, forgive the maturity factor coming into play, but I went from
That's what he said.
the old Warner School to Sebastopol,
Yes.
Fairview, to Dennis, to the high school. And I never once rode a school bus other than to a basketball or athletic trip.
Uphill both ways, I'm sure.
And then we got it both ways.
That's back when it snowed 180 days,
that's
too.
true.
That's right.
So the point being, we're in a different culture now. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm
I'd
just
be
saying.
happy to entertain a motion if one wanted to be brought to the floor.
Are we in a place where we can go ahead and vote to approve it?
If there's a motion.
I didn't know.
I'm fully confident in the monitoring of the contract and the monitoring of the service that Karen's putting into it. I'm confident with Mr. Cross saying we're good on the contract. I'm confident with the people we have in place to oversee what's going on there. I'm ready to vote to approve.
Want to make the motion?
I would like to make a motion that we take our work session 7.01 transportation contract.
And we have all the documents listed.
With the documents listed, all the exhibits, and approve it for implementation.
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion by Brad Walton, second by Nicole Stoltz. Any additional questions or comments?
I would just say that I think it's good that the public understand that we don't have private meetings about this contract. This is our first public discussion, so I think the questions are warranted and the discussion is good to have for the public to hear, and also just for us to have a conversation all together about it.
If you go to any city in Indiana, or primarily around any city in the United States right now, and I think that if they have a school corporation, I'll add that to it. The three areas that they're struggling for recruitment and containment: police officers, classroom teachers, and bus drivers. If you go through any community in Richmond, in the state of Indiana right now, you don't see just yard signs. Indianapolis is down 1,700 police officers right now, and they've got billboards up doing recruitment. They've got billboards all the way out in California recruiting for there, but they've got twice as many signs out right now in Indianapolis alone. I'm just using Indianapolis, larger community, but still. Columbus, Indiana, same thing. You've got those billboards out there just imploring people, come, we need bus drivers. So I understand the dilemma. I was a member of this board when we were in the bus transportation, own our buses, pay the drivers thing. I think it's been a little smoother.
Still own our buses.
Well, excuse me. We still have our buses. But anyway,
We're only talking
we're
about
employed,
labor.
when they were our employees. I feel your grief and your pain. 87% is not acceptable, 85% is not acceptable. And knowing the fact that there aren't a whole lot of vendors out there that are in the bus business anymore, I'm sure that over the next number of months, that if we do approve this, that you're also behind the scenes looking at what the backup plan is for vendors and everything. If this contract were severed, I don't know how quickly or how sufficient we would get a fill-in for it or another partnership. I don't know, because it's just a desperate situation out there. But I'm okay with moving forward. Yet at the same time, again, as you stated, if we're still below that 99-100% this time next year, I think a much harder look has to be given to it. Not saying that you haven't, but yeah.
The thing that's made me feel really good was hearing Karen say for the first time I've ever heard it was how responsive they are, because I'll echo that. The vendors normally aren't that responsive, and to have people here next day or response within a few minutes, that's actually pretty impressive.
Well, maybe there ought to be some quarterly metrics or reports that go to the board.
My board update always has transportation in it. So I try really hard to keep you guys in the know on what's going on, what's coming up. So, I'll continue to do that, but.
And if we are wanting anything specific, we can always ask. So.
Well, tonight's the first night I heard that we're on 85%. So.
Any other questions or
That in
comments?
itself is a problem.
All right, all those in favor of the motion to accept the bus transportation contract, the Sodrel, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Aye. Motion passes 6-1. Thank you. Moving on to board reports and old business, I'm sorry. Item 8.01, Educational Planning Working Group, Kristen, Keith, and Aaron.
We have not met.
Nope, not since our last meeting.
Is there any update? I know the search is winnowing down.
Hear about the, yeah.
Yes, so we had finalist interviews for our STEAM director position last night. So we are debriefing, checking references, and we'll be bringing a recommendation for that position at the next board meeting. We also had a calendar meeting. I know that was on the agenda last time. We had that last night as well. And so in that calendar meeting, we are looking at staggering times. We are also looking at a different professional development model versus removing the early release potentially. So lots of good conversation around that. That committee will meet again in 2 weeks, and our ed working group meets on the 28th.
Any timeline? I know lots of parents are rumbling about having a calendar in place, and I know it takes a lot to put it in place. Any idea how far out that, or an estimation to when the calendar will be?
I would say that we would be able to bring that back next month at the latest.
Okay.
So that we would be able to approve the calendars. That's our goal, is by the end of first semester, so. We think that's a board meeting in December.
And are you still working with, I think there were like 25 people on that calendar committee? Is
Yes.
that- Okay,
Yes.
so it's still the entire,
Great representation of our
Yes.
corporation.
Okay.
Great representation.
Teachers, administrators, parents,
Okay.
Our
and it
community
is complex. I think someone mentioned that there are lots of different pieces that we're pulling in to that conversation. So I do think we have 3 versions that we'll be pulling together to create one. We're going to try to create the model for next year, and then replicate that for the second year. So
thank you.
Thank you. Item 8.02, Building and Grounds, Jeff, Brad, Nicole.
We've not met.
So I did want to point out though that we did have the McGuire Hall grand opening. That the Building and Grounds, obviously we've been working on that, and I feel like I've talked about it a lot, but it was really exciting to be over there and to have the community show up. And it was, yeah, I know we kind of had a soft opening with the art museum having their annual exhibit there prior to the grand opening, and there were over 250 attendees at the art museum, and lots of wonderful compliments. So kudos. I mean, it was just, yeah, everybody was very impressed, and
I thought our decision on the seating was the correct one.
it looks great.
It looks awesome.
During the re-grand opening, as Mr. Stoltz and
Yes.
Mr. Walton and Mr. Weber had alluded to, I think it also was just a great representation of what's to come. I know that as a central office and building level leadership team and other teachers, conversations have been had, and what indeed we were trying to capture or at least present to our community is what they can expect to occur there within our beloved and historic McGuire Hall, and for everyone to turn out from our performing arts department, RHS, to our theatrical performers, to the Richmond Community Orchestra, which, as Director Connor mentioned, they have participants ranging from ages 13 to 93 in the same orchestra, and very dignified and dignitary men and women that just out of the joy and love of arts and in such a historic facility.
It was
amazing.
a great mix of talent demos. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
We're
awesome.
just like,
And
thank all those students particularly. I mean, that's why, in my opinion, we did the work. And so I appreciate those groups. I appreciate Mrs. Scalp. I know she worked a ton on that. I know Chartwell's, I believe, provided the refreshments. I think they did a fantastic job. One of our partners, vendors, and I know that was a lot of lot of details to make that come off, but it was well done, and I know Scout got beat up a little bit today. I'm sorry, but the effort with the McGuire Hall has been exceptional and extraordinary, and thank you very much.
And for that performance, Mrs. Hazel Baker and many members of leadership teams did again, the collection of individuals that came together. Mr. Glenn Schleifer, our new Executive Director of Facilities, along with a few vendors, also had an opportunity to address the audience on the re-grand opening. And Mr. Schleifer, if you don't mind just sharing some of the highlights that came with the McGuire Hall project, and also some of the challenges that you are excited that are behind us now. With that project, if you don't mind, sir.
Well, it's a long time coming. That auditorium's been there since 1939. And, you know, it was heavily used in its earlier days, and it's kind of got left behind. And the main reason is because we didn't have air conditioning in it. Couldn't condition the air in there. And, you know, as things get older, they deteriorate a little bit. And so we was lucky enough to get the grant to get it started, to get the air conditioning, and then it kind of fell forward to get the other things fixed up. We brought the lighting up to speed, brought the sound system, audio was all up to speed, new projector, LED projector in there, along with the seat. So it's really come along. It looks really nice, and it's going to be, I think, well received and well used in the future here, moving forward to utilize that space again for students, staff, community members, and so forth. So it's turned out really nice.
Thank you, Mr. Slack.
Before we leave building and grounds, I would like to put some urgency behind the solar audit. As a corporation, I think we need to be moving a lot faster at looking at things, and I think we had charged that group to do that, and I would like them to take some steps towards that ASAP.
All right.
Yes, sir, Mr. Slack.
I can give you just a small update on that. I have met with the representative on that, and we've sent them the required information that they asked for. So we're just kind of just in a waiting game for them to get back to us to bring us some proposals and stuff. But it has been a spell. Now that you mentioned that, I have heard from him, so it might be time for me to give him a jingle to get an update on where he's at.
Hopefully he'll call you back within 8 minutes. Have the team in tomorrow.
John would like some, shine some light on this.
Anything else in the building and grounds? All right, moving on to 8.03, Finance Working Group. Jeff, Kristen, John.
We have not met.
Have not met.
Is there a meeting coming up?
Right, end of the month.
All right.
We
Excellent.
usually are at the
On
end of the month.
Thanksgiving.
After Thanksgiving.
Just for you, Jeff.
Afternoon of Thanksgiving. Jeff likes to work on those weekends.
You gotta wear your sweatpants.
Item 8.04, Marketing Working Group, Brad, John, Nicole, we did meet. Nicole?
Do you want to? You can go ahead. I'm awfully chatty sometimes.
I know, well, I'll gavel you.
John, go.
You ready?
Okay. Okay, so we discussed data trends in regards to the YouTube channel. We also looked at our data for social media channels. We decided to put a little more focus on TikTok. It's very, we've seen a large increase in popularity there, and so we also looked at Q7 Marketing has sent us an updated logo that includes the established in 1852 where that banner part is. So we're working on putting that together and getting that released soon, which is kind of fun. We're also updating signage at Test and Dennis and Hibbard on the football fields as well as the tracks. There's been a purchase of a banner for Leibolt Field's press box, so talked about each of those things. And then also looking at just our strategic plan, having that put up at all the schools. So getting the word out, this is what we're focusing on, these are our goals, these are our priorities. Just part of that communication is what we're really wanting to hit hard coming up. So that's kind of what's in the works.
In addition to what Mrs. Stolz has also presented, I think that as we've discussed, providing ourselves opportunities and channels to share with our community and the community at large our story, as well as accurate and fact-based information. I think with the video public addresses, with board briefs with Bridget, with our new Insights newsletter that is going to our faculty and staff as well as our community, with the fact that as it was reported to me today, the majority of our educators in our corporation have their own classroom newsletter that goes to their respective parents and the guardians of our students. We have I think a plethora, and we'll continue to improve upon ways in which we are reaching out and sharing the word with our community. And I think they've been appreciative, but we always can get better. But TikTok is, I'll have to indeed adjust my account and
get your blue check first on Twitter.
We need to approve that in the budget.
I'll give him his $8. Well, he'd need a Twitter first. All right, thank you, sir. Moving on to 8.05, other discussion. Open the floor.
We just reminding ourselves that that unfortunately, as we get older, people who were instrumental in our lives get older as well, and some unfortunately eventually reach that end that ultimately all of us are going to. Within the last couple of weeks, we lost a former retired teacher, Mr. Gil Turner, who was a teacher here at high school for a number of years, a golf coach, assistant basketball coach over a number of years, and everything else. We also, forgive me, I just forgot her name, woman who had served as the director of the Alumni Association.
Mary Gray.
Yes. So, we're sitting here today, and those are people that in my time on the board have stood at this podium one way or another in times. And as we are into this holiday season, being mindful of families and appreciative of the teachers that we still have in the classrooms and those who've retired, because some of them often feel that once they leave the classroom and get into retirement, we forget them. But let's remember them in our hearts and our prayers.
In addition to that, Mr. Stevens, I'd be remiss if I didn't share, as you referenced, those who have influenced us, Mrs. Peggy Mitchell, along with Mrs. Mary Vogelsing.
Yes,
who were
right.
very instrumental in providing tutelage and mentorship, guidance, counseling, education to thousands of our RCS former students and current alumni. So, yes, 'tis the season.
Yes. A couple of things. First of all, I just wanted to say a warm welcome and congratulations to soon-to-be board members, to Pete Zaleski and Stacy Mops, who have both been, yes, I think we can do that, right? The public can't usually see that you've been here week after week after week, and so that says a lot to your commitment already, and so we're excited to have you guys join us up here. You'll be on camera, sorry about that, but just wanted to say a warm welcome to them. So, and then also we have our school board retreat coming up November 12th, this Saturday. I did want the public just to know we are your representatives, so let us know if there's anything that you have for us to be discussing. That is one of the few times that we have to just all talk and have that time together, so you can contact us. So, and then Kristen, did you want to talk about
you seem like you're doing so well.
Kristen and I visited Test Intermediate School today and had a very good visit. We were in Mrs. Oliver's class today, and I did want to point out Chris Pombano is the man in the audience here. Thank you, Chris, for coming. We invited him to our board meeting, and he actually came. This is fun times, right? So Chris is actually he's involved with Get Your Teach On. So and has actually been very integral in making that happen at our schools, and we were excited to get a little peek at that. So as we were in Mrs. Oliver's class, so
President Weber and trustees, I
Yeah.
apologize, Mrs. Stoltz has opened the door and
Please.
to be
Here we go.
we are very fortunate. We're very fortunate as a corporation to be able to partner with our Department of Education here within the state of Indiana, and also to be able to partner with Get Your Teacher On, which is a nationally acclaimed, globally acclaimed outfit, and Mr. Pombano, for him to indeed bless us with his presence. Mr. Pombano, if you don't mind joining us at the podium just briefly, because you are a former Radio Disney host. You are a former, you're a former educator for sure. You've been awarded with the Macy's Magic of Teaching, Magic of Innovation Award. You've done
gonna read the
so
whole
many.
bio, I guess.
Yeah.
I also want to inform folks he is from New York, Long Island, and so I welcome to the Hoosier State. But Mr. Pombano, I know I had the pleasure of meeting you last month, and we all have been working in hand with you all and Hope and Wade King, who again, these are within our education world, superstars of what it is that we do. If you all recall, our former Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Darcy Talbot had come to our podium expressing how much she enjoyed the experience of Get Your Teacher On last fall, when they invited she and 17 other very elite educators around the country. And to know that Get Your Teacher On has committed and devoted their resources, their talents to Richmond Community Schools, and is embedded within Test Intermediate for the remainder of this year to support Mrs. Thomas and the Test Intermediate community. I don't think people realize how fortunate we truly are. This is one of those once in a blue moon moments. And so to have Mr. Pombano with us, if you don't mind just sharing with us some of the exciting aspects that you have experienced, as well as some of our areas of growth, opportunity. And I know that you are, again, not short on words, so I'll be quiet. Go for it.
I know it's late, so I'll try to make it as quick as possible. But thank you, Dr. Wright. Also, thank you, Kristen and Nicole, for teaching math today in 5th grade with me. We had a great time teaching math. Mrs. Oliver was actually out, so that was a substitute, which I didn't find out till after. But the three of us held it down pretty well, so we did good in there. But I've served as a teacher, instructional coach, and administrator in Orlando and then in Harlem, New York. And I now work full-time for Get Your Teach On, like Dr. Wright said, where we provide engaging and rigorous professional development to teachers all across the country. We're grateful that for the next 2 years we have a partnership with Dr. Jenner and the Indiana DOE, and 8 schools were selected out of over 100 that applied to be our collaboration sites for the next 2 years. So really going in, focusing 8 days in the school year, really training those teachers, giving them what they need, helping the administration. Hope and Wade actually are the collaboration site leaders for Test Intermediate, and after they had their first visit, they said, we can really help this school, we can really help this community. So our whole team has kind of chosen Test as our project for the year. So we're focusing on all 8, but we're all hands in on Test and really helping those teachers. Something Kristen, Nicole, and I talked about is overall throughout the country, teacher morale is low. Teachers are overworked, underpaid, nothing new to us. But post the pandemic, obviously teachers are feeling that a little more with the big shortages that we're feeling everywhere. So our goal with Get Your Teach On really is to motivate, empower, and celebrate these teachers, especially at Test, because they're doing incredible things, the leadership there. I'm excited that Casey will be joining the administrators there, because I think that's going to be the missing piece that I appreciate all of you for doing that, even though I didn't ask you to do that, but I appreciate you for listening to the administration, because I think it'll make a great asset to what they have going on, and it's much needed support for them. Some things coming up in the future for them, obviously ongoing professional development for teachers. I'm here for the next 3 days, so I today worked with the administration, tomorrow I'll work with the teachers, and then on Friday we're doing some pep rallies with the students, just to kind of improve that climate, culture, make it an exciting place. Next week, the rest of our team will tag behind me, and they're actually redoing a space as a full teacher's lounge for the teachers there. I don't know if the teachers know that, so if they're watching, I think they're probably sleeping by now. I don't know. They're probably
not
sleeping
by
by
now.
now. I don't know if they're watching
Say
the board meeting.
tens of people.
Maybe less than 30 minutes.
But our whole team is coming in. We have incredible sponsors like the College Football Playoff Foundation. Our partners have really good stuff that have some incredible things in store for the teachers next week at TESS. And we're just so excited to continue to work with you all. So when Chris and Nicole said, hey, we have a board meeting tonight, I was like, it's that or save the home 2 suites and order room service. So board meeting it was. So thank you all for inviting me. And I look forward to continuing the partnership and hopefully seeing you all again soon.
Thank you. And then as Mr. Pombano has mentioned, when you think about Get Your Teach On, when you think about our professional learning organization goals, when you think of NIET, when you think of the multitude of things that we currently have in motion, they all are interconnected and interlocked to try and improve upon alignment, to try to improve upon quality tier 1 instruction, and all of what professional development and guidance that we have received from Dr. Rice, from NIET, from Get Your Teach On, from others. We indeed are walking and chewing gum and trying to improve upon on a daily basis the lot for our students and the faculty and staff to support them. And so we thank you, sir, and
thank you.
Love the outfit.
Thank you. And actually, last thing, the conversation about buses, I'm so glad you all had it because that was actually the first thing that our team, when we came in, obviously we're focused on engagement, professional development, but students weren't in the classrooms at that time. So thank you for your department, all you do, and school board for really making that a priority because that is something that TESS has struggled with this year. And knowing that you all are putting so much work into it is very appreciative on our half because if kids are not in the building, they're not going to be learning, and then the day is just not set up for success if they're not there in the morning. So thank your department, thank you school board for prioritizing that transportation because it all aligns like Dr. Wright said. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, anything else, Nicole? Well, thank you all. That was nice impromptu. Preview, a surprise and a delight, I guess I should go. Preview of upcoming meeting in the minutes.
President Weber, trustees, our next scheduled board meeting is a uniquely scheduled board meeting because of the Thanksgiving recess. Our next board meeting will be Monday, November 21st, right here in our boardroom. And on that day, we'll continue to highlight the work that's been done, the work that has to be put in place, and the joy of being here in Richmond Community Schools. Yes, sir.
Can I just,
yes, sir.
The risk of keeping everybody another 30 seconds, I think we did congratulate the folks that were the newly elected folks, but I would like to just say thanks to all of the other folks who ran. There's a lot of work and there's a lot of effort that goes into running, and it's nice. I remember 4 years ago not looking like no one was going to run. So it's good to know that people are wanting us to continue. They're wanting to be a part of this and be engaged. So thanks to you guys, congrats, but to all the others who ran, thank you as well, and continue to find ways that you can help this school. We need as much help as we can get. Appreciate it.
Well said. Anything else? Bell ringer?
President Weber, trustees, I'm going to ask that Mrs. Bridget Hazelbaker, our communications coordinator, come back to the podium to join the forum conversation. We always look forward to our bell ringer from Bridget.
She looks so happy.
I am. I just wanted to also just highlight some upcoming events. The Richmond bowling team will be competing against Northeastern this Saturday at the Rose City Bowl in Newcastle. Next week also kicks off American Education Week for our staff. Next Wednesday, our RCS 4th graders will be traveling to the Coleman Center at the Wayne County Fairgrounds to participate in conservation days. And then the RHS Steel Drum Group will be hosting their concert on Thursday, November 17th at City Hall. And then a bell ringer, again, was the McGuire Hall had their grand reopening on Monday. Special thanks to the RHS XX, the Red Devil Players Drama Club, the RHS Jazz Band, the RHS Orchestra, and the Richmond Community Orchestra, providing the wonderful entertainment for the evening. And also thank you to Chartwells for the delicious refreshments.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Meeting adjourned.